My name is Zoran Popovic. I'm a professor of computer science and director of Center for Game Science at University of Washington in Seattle.
Nice. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's see. So can you briefly explain your work and how it relates to learners, perhaps?
There are two things that we're doing. The first one was really sort of how can learning be sort of generated through an incentive structure such that people from all walks of life, young or old, could potentially become really highly skilled in a particular topic. So we ended up picking a topic in biochemistry and phrasing a game around the specific scientific discovery problems. And after about 2 or 3 years, people started producing sort of results that were unknown to scientists. In fact, most recently, there's a problem that was outstanding for 15 years that was solved in less than 3 weeks, actually, by this community of experts developed through the game. And so, more recently, what we're doing is trying to use the same kind of technology to figure out, can we remove all the key bottlenecks of learning in early math, let's say elementary, middle school, with specific focus on the biggest, most troublesome spots, but also, more importantly, how can we remove the stigma behind these kinds of concepts, right? So how do you walk out of middle school not thinking that math is boring, that you're not good at it, that it's not cool, and that it has no implication to your real life. And so basically we're using a sort of large adaptive game world. So basically the idea is that anybody with a mobile phone should have state-of-the-art sort of conceptual understanding of key concepts in math that's customized for exactly the type of learning that they most prefer. So basically there's this large way in which the game self-adapts to the player as they play.
Nice.
So those are the two big projects that I'm working on.
That's very interesting. Yeah, I get a lot of, my own peers who just, probably more at the high school level, who just have stayed away from mathematics. They don't want to, deal with it. They try to avoid it because of early learning difficulties and things just didn't click to them. But I think that emphasizing different strategies is very important early on, because people do think in different ways, and when a teacher just takes one way and kind of goes with it, and that's not your way, then things can get jumbled up in your mind. So I think that's going to be really relevant and helpful. So do you have any advice for people, let's say learners who are struggling, whether they are at the middle school age or the high school age, people who are struggling with math and science? Do you encourage peer-to-peer interaction, or do you encourage them to go online and try to have enhanced learning or enhance their schooling with something online? Or what's the...
Yeah, online or even online games can actually be a very powerful peer-to-peer mechanism. So even with Foldit, the best results come out of mass-scale collaboration between different people. In many ways, I think games can, I've been thinking about this a lot, even in the places where you don't actually have a support system, maybe even at home. Maybe you have a single-parent home, or maybe just the parent is working so hard you don't actually have this time that's really required there's perhaps a way in which a game community, all focused towards sort of discovery and advancement in these particular topics, can serve as an inspiration or incentive for people to sort of work and sort of replace some of these sort of family structures that sometimes are missing in the process. So yeah, I absolutely, in fact, some of our games, the way we're developing them is to not just have social problem solving, but also to involve older people, older kids who've mastered those particular concepts. How do they stay involved and interested, right? So the question, if they just work through fractions, they master fractions, okay, I'm done, I'll never see this game again. But if you now play a game where you're creating new levels and you're rating is or like your stature in the game or social environment of the game increases as your levels become more and more useful to the younger kids. Then all of a sudden you're in it for a longer period of time. Or perhaps we have this thing called angel mode, where you can actually have the ability to swoop down into every direct interaction of somebody else. That somebody's playing a game, they're stuck.
Wow.
Computer auto detects that they're stuck, and then these other people come in as sort of avatars, and they provide a sort of minimal amount of hint that lets them understand, but not solve the problems for themselves, of course. So there's many of these social mechanisms that really need to be included in order to make a sort of effective intergenerational learning environment.
Right. That sounds really interesting. I think that the concepts that you just described I think they're direly needed in physical classrooms, but it's great that they're so easily integrated in games, because you can do things like, just have Avatar jump into the game all of a sudden. So
yeah, so that's the idea. I mean, it's games are kind of, first kids naturally gravitate towards them no matter what, right?
Yeah.
But it's sort of a nimble thing that can exist no matter what kind of classroom, no matter what kind of education you have. And so that's why I'm excited, because you can sort of have the widest possible reach compared to anything else, in a cheap, perhaps even in the cheapest possible way, if mobile phones really are going to be available everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. Well, it's been great talking to you, and great to hear all of the exciting work that you're doing.
Sure. All right.
So
Thank you.
Thanks so much for your time.